Pretext is a purpose or a motive alleged, or an appearance assumed, in order to cloak the real intention or state of affairs.
Initial access. OMI is trying to get into your network.
Listen, this is your manager, and I'm trying to send off an email. I got this document. Need you to confirm a few details. So go ahead and log in and tell me what you think. I need this now, so to make this convenient, here is the link. I'm a threat actor, fishing mark for email is urgent to distract you with it. So how fast you clicked it when you submitted the form with your password in it. You probably couldn't tell there was an actual difference in the URL. The domains look alike though, and to you it looked fine though. Well, mine had typos and make it look like yours. See, I was in the mood today to make your account a communal space, but then you activated your trap card, and I saw you had 2FA, but I just shrugged. I'ma shake it off. Got on kid gloves, I'ma take them off. Got your phone number, I'ma make a call. I'ma break this wall, it just makes me lol. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking. Yeah. Hello. Hi. I'm calling you from the IT department. We have been under attack by some hackers, and we think that your account might be a target.
Oh no, how do I fix this?
No need to worry, I wrote up a ticket. You'll get a notification from your authenticator app, so please pass me them digits.
1 sec.
Okay.
Yeah. The code is 112345.
Thank you. You fell for the lie, so I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. Cutting it short like a crew cut. Probably think it won't happen to you, but it happens to Uber. They say you win some, you lose some. Boys got a smooth touch hacking you too, bruh. You know how I be creeping, and I'm logged in your VP, and it probably looks anomalous. Some logs if you be keeping them, and probably unaware about the shares that have been peeping. And the reason I'll be seeking them, I'm looking for an easy win. You probably thought it was a magic trick, and you're mad you clicked. I'ma stack my chips and bet that a DA password is sitting in an admin script. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking. I'm moving quick, I'm on a mission. Yeah, I heard your network is lit. I'm trying to get in. Yeah, I'm trying to get me a hit. When I go fishing. Yeah, you probably think it's legit. I got you clicking.
Hello everyone. Hello, and thanks for joining us today. So this is another episode of Generative AI in Azure. And if you're yet to join the Meetup group, make sure that you join the Meetup group. I'll put the link in the chat window in a few minutes. So the track that was playing earlier for the intro, so that's a track by OMI. So it's a really awesome nerdcore rapper. So make sure you check out his work. I've put the link in the chat window, and I also have it up on the screen. So we're back again. I think this is our 7th episode of this series. So I'll let Kenny introduce herself first this time around. And then I'll introduce myself afterwards.
Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome back to another session. My name is Candy. So yeah, over to
Nice.
you.
I like it. Very nice and sharp. So and I'm David. So and today we're going to carry on from where we stopped the last time, talking about generative AI in Azure. So what we're going to do today is like the last time, Kenny, we started. I mentioned Anything, which is a platform that we can use to build automation workflows. But we can also now integrate it with AI agent. And it's a really, really popular platform because of its visual nature, right? It's really visual. It makes things very, very simple for people to grasp, right? For concept for people to grasp. So what we're going to do is that the last time I was trying to show a demo, but there are some parts of the demo that did not work. So we're going to try to go through that again today. So let's try to do that. Oh, by the way, Kenny, did you have the chance to go to do the demo at all? To go through the
Yes, I went through it. Yes.
Nice. How did you find that?
It was pretty straightforward.
I like that. That's a really good one. So what do you think? Do you think that, so in terms of the tools that you've sort of like interacted with um, so far, what do you think of anything as a tool then?
I think it's a good one because of like the visual interface and all. Like you're able to visually see like each step you're taking.
Yeah. Yeah. And one
Yeah.
of the things
So
just to add also is that the things that we talked about will actually go back to Azure AI Foundry, and we're going to go back to Azure AI Foundry. And we're going to do something similar to what we talked about with Anytime. We're going to do something similar with Azure AI Foundry, and we can do this something similar. It's possible to do that. Azure as a tool, which we've done in the past sessions that we did, called Azure Logic Apps. Azure Logic Apps is a tool that we can use to build like automation workflow, right? So people can use them for like things like business orchestrations. So the same way that we're using N10, we can also leverage Azure Logic Apps. So there is a way to, of course, we saw like the other side, like integrating Logic Apps into Azure AI Foundry agents. But it's also possible to do the reverse, which is you have your orchestration workflows in Logic Apps, and then you integrate Azure AI Foundry agents into your workflow, which is what we're doing with Anytime. So it's possible to do something similar with Logic Apps. It may not be as visually appealing as Anytime, but it's possible to achieve the same thing with Azure Logic Apps. And we're going to see that in our series. Okay, so what I'll do is let me just quickly share my screen. Let's go to screen share, and I'm going to share the entire screen. And okay, so I have the entire screen being shared now. So what we're going to do is that we're going to walk through this together. And what we're going to be working together is, again, going to be building an AI agent that we can use to interact with a database that's in Azure. So if anyone is interested in following the walkthrough that I'm going to be doing today, I'll put the link in the chat window to the Medium page. So go to that link and you'll be able to follow through with what I'm going to be walking through today. So so let's start with the first part. The first part is we're going to be using the tool called N10. N10, of course, we can use it in the cloud. They have a cloud version, but we can also run it locally. So they have a community edition that we can run locally on our PC. So when you were doing your test, Kenny, did you use the local version or the cloud version?
the cloud version.
The cloud version, nice. So
Yes.
I use like the local version, and so for others, Kenny is she's a super rich lady, so she's more richer. So you can get the license and stuff like that. So for me, like I use the community version because it's free, right? So I have it on my PC. So right now, if I go to my PC right now, I currently have N8N running on my PC. So you can see what I've done to install it and to run it on my PC. And again, if you want to follow along, just go to the link and just follow the instructions here to install it on your PC. That's what I've done so far. I've installed N8N on my PC. So the next thing that I have is that there is instructions on how you can create sample data in Azure. So in this case, I have a database in Azure running the Azure storage account. So if I go to on the tables, I have a database here called StudentsDB. So I have the StudentsDB database. And if I want to explore the data in that database, if I go to on the storage browser, and if I go to on the tables, and here I have the database, and I can see the data in this database. So it contains information about student records, who the students are, what courses are they studying, what year did they enroll, what's their current GPA, and then it has other information like the last time that they were reviewed and who is their student advisor. So it contains some information around this. We all want to do is we want to put an AI agent in front of this that can interact with this using natural language. So, but that's the database that we're going to be interacting with. So let's go back to the instructions and let's follow that. So I already have, again, I've made this very easy. If you want to set up a sample exactly as the one that I have here, I've put the script here that you can use. So you just need to run the scripts in Azure Cloud Shell, and you get a sample database that you can use. So the next thing that I also need is I need to generate a SAS URL. So in Azure, a SAS URL is it's like a temporary token. It's like a temporary token that we can use to access that database. So instead of using a long-lived key, a key that stays for a very long time, we're going to use a temporary key. So that's what SAS URL allows us to do. So what I've also put in here is an instruction on how to generate a SAS URL. So I've done all of this in the interest of time earlier. So that is the reason why you see that, I've got like the SAS URL generated and I have the SAS URL already recorded. So let's go to the next part. The next part I'm going to do is I need an open AI API key. So here's some very interesting one. I don't think we've talked about it a lot so far, Kenny. Large language models that are offered by companies like OpenAI and the others, they are also like small language models that we can run on our PCs. I'm not sure. Have you ever used a small language model before, Kenny?
No.
Yeah, a small language model. So it's like a large like it has large language model capabilities, but it is distilled down into a smaller version. So it doesn't have as much parameters as a large language model, but you can still do a lot of things with it. So the reason why I bring that up is that in order for me to be able to use Open API here, I have to pay for it, right? So I have like a subscription with Open API, with Open AI, and I can create API keys to integrate with it. However, let's say you have you're not able to pay for that. You want to run like a language model locally on your PC. You can run a small language model, and you can use it as part of your N8N workflows. So in order to do that, there are different tools that you can use to run models locally. One of the tools is a tool called Olama. Have you heard of Olama before, Kenny?
Yes. Is Grok part of this example too?
So you can use,
Grok,
yeah,
Admo.
yeah, you can use Grok. So Grok will also be like a large language model made by X, right? Formerly Twitter.
Okay.
So Grok will be like that. But Olama is different from Llama. So Llama is a large language model created by Meta, right? Grok is a large language model created by X. Olama is a local tool. It's a local application that you can install on your PC. And you can use it to run small language models locally on your PC. So that's one of the advantages of Olama. So you can essentially, I can download it. I won't download it now. You can download it locally. And when you download it, you can use it to easily run small language models on your PC. There's another tool that you can use to run small language models on your PC. Have you ever heard of a tool called LM Studio before?
I'm still no.
Yeah. So LM Studio is a tool that it's a really, really good tool that you can also experiment with. Let me show you what LM Studio looks like so that you can see what I mean. So here I have LM Studio installed on my PC, right? And if I go to like LM Studio, I can go to, let's go to the left-hand side. Let's go to my models. And it says I don't have any models. So I can say, let's go get some model to download. So if I click on that, and look at that, it's taking me out to Hugging Face, and it's brought out a lot of models. And you can see a lot of models here. You can see Gemma, you can see all kinds of models. So what I can do is let me look for one. There's one called Tiny Llama. So I can see Tiny Llama chart. So that's usually is a very small, it's a small language model. So it only got like 1.1 billion parameters. So let me select Tiny Llama. And what I can do, you can see it's about 1.17 gig. But that is way much smaller than large language models are really, really huge. They've got like billions of parameters. This one just has about 1.1 billion parameter Large language model will have more. So in this case, I can go download this locally on my PC. It's going to download it. And once it downloads it, I can interact with it on my PC like I will be interacting with ChatGPT. So this would be a small language model running on my PC. I can give it files and ask it to analyze the files. I can give it different instructions and it will answer the instructions for me. So the reason why I bring this up, Kenny, is that in case you want to run anything agent and you don't want to pay OpenAI for their API keys, you can use a tool like Olama to run small language model on your PC and point to them instead of using OpenAI models. Of course, they won't be as powerful as those ones, but at least you still be able to leverage something. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So here you go. You can see like, Tiny Llama is currently downloading and installing on my PC. So once it's finished installing, I can go interact with it and you see that, you have like a ChatGPT-like experience locally on your PC. So, so it says finalizing download. So once it's finished downloading, I can go ahead and I can run that and I can show that to you. So you can see download completed. So if I go to load the model, so this is one of the powerful ones. My system is all about, so even though they call them small language models, these models are compute intensive. So let me show you an example. Let me go to Task Manager on my PC very quickly. So for you to see what it's going to do to my PC once I switch. So let's switch to performance on my PC. So look at this. So this is my PC. So you can see that I have like a few GPUs on my PC, right? And I have like, of course, like some CPUs. So because I have GPUs, it's going to use GPU on my PC. So let me go to load the model. So look at what will happen once I load the model. So I load the model and let's go back to bring up Task Manager. And you see that my GPU is now getting hammered a bit, right? So it's beginning to do a lot of work. So, and at the moment, it's currently like about 57% utilization. So let's see, it finished loading Olama. I can go create a new chat locally on my PC. So I'm on my PC here. I'm not talking to something outside. And I can say, hello. I'm not sure. I just said hello. And he said, how can I add a picture to my email using Mac? Replies, who asked you? Anyways, you know what they say, Kenny, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
I can't complain, it's free. It's free, so I can't complain. It's like I will answer the questions you don't ask me. I'm free. So I'm like, I just said hello, and it's like I can help you add email to the Outlook on Mac or whatever. So anyways, so so it's free. So there you go. You can see that that was high utilization. Anyways, let's go back to our project. So let me eject this model so it doesn't use my GPU, and let's go back to our project. But hopefully that makes sense to you. You understand like the different options that we can use outside of the ones I'm using. So in this case, I've created my OpenAI key, and I've also added my OpenAI key to my environment. So let me show you what I did. So essentially, you need to go create credential. Yeah. And when you go to create credential, you can go ahead and you can add different credentials. So in my case, I added a credential for OpenAI account. I put in my API key here. So, and I've added other credentials. So that's what I'm pointing out here. So I've done that already. So I've created a credential. So after that, let me go and start creating my workflow now. So let's go to do that again. So here I'm going to go back to create workflow. And let's start from scratch like we did the last time. I won't go through everything like we did the last time. So let's add our first step. So the first step, I want to start on the chat message. So I'll select on a chat message. And I'll make this publicly available. It's only running on my PC, so that's fine. And I'll go ahead and I'll test the chat. So if I say, hello, it should light up. I won't get any response because it doesn't have any model to process anything. So that's the starting point. So I started by adding the chat. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add an AI agent to the workflow. So let's go do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the next step. And I'm going to add an AI agent. And I'm going to add my AI agent here. And in the AI agents that I'm adding, let's go to duplicate this so I can have it on another screen. So let's do this. By the way, for the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to ask any question that you have as we go through this. So anyways, I click to add an AI agent. So it's going to ask me certain information about the agent. So let's go to under parameters. So on the parameters, let's go to, I'm not going to make any changes actually. I'm just going to add the AI agent. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a model that this agent will use. So if I go to add a model, I can use like all of this model. So is there anything that jumps out at you from what we just spoke about, Kenny? Anything that jumps out at you from what we just spoke about in terms of the options that are available here?
I didn't get that.
Is there any option that jumps out at you from what we just spoke about in the available model? So I want to add a model to this agent. Can you see this option right here? And that option says what? Ollama chat model. So that's the option that you will use if you have a small language model that you're running locally on your PC that you want to use. You can just say, hey, I've got Ollama running a small language model, use that model. So that's the option that you can select. But in my case, I'm just going to select OpenAI because I've paid for that. So if I select that, it's going to ask me for the credential to use. I'll select the credential. I'll select my model. So I'm going to select GPT-4o model. And I'm going to leave everything else as it is. And I'm going to close this. Now I've added a model to my agent. The other thing that I want to do is I want to add a memory to my agent. Now, what's the purpose of the memory, Kenny, if you remember from last time?
Memory to allow it to recollect.
Exactly, awesome. Because if we don't have the memory, then what we saw the last time where I can ask it a question, and then when I ask it a follow-up question, it does not keep any context. So I need to give it memory so that I can keep a context of previous conversations. So excellent answer. So in this case, I'll just add a memory. I'll add a simple local memory. If I wanted to, I can add a more robust memory in form of a database. Maybe I'm using something like a Reddit database for memory. I can do that. So the other thing that I'll do is I'll begin to add my tools. So by the way, for the memory, let me increase the context length. So I'll change it to 50. So it will collect more messages. So the other thing that I'll do is I'll begin to add tools to this. So I want to add a tool to connect to my database. In this case, it's an Azure storage table or Azure table storage. So let's go to do that. So in this case, I'll select HTTP request tool. And the reason for selecting HTTP request tool is that it's not a native tool in anything for Azure table storage. I'm just going to use direct API calls. So let's go ahead and add this. So the first thing that we need to add is we need to add a description. So what's the purpose of this description? Does it have any significance, Kenny? What we had as description? Does it have any significance, any meaning?
I didn't get that.
Oh, sorry. So here I'm going to add a first tool. I'm going to add a tool to my agent. And I'm going to give the tool a description. Does this description have any significance? Or should I just put anything? Should I just put 2:1? Should I just do that? Would that be fine? Or does it matter what I put in the description? Oh, I'm not sure if we lost, Kenny's account dropped. I think that Kenny's internet connection or something experienced like an issue. So we'll probably come back to that. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and add a description. So what I wanted to point out is that the description does matter, what we had as the description, because this is what the agent will use to decide which tool to select. So it's like you go into like a warehouse, and when you go into a warehouse, you have multiple boxes. And then on the boxes, you have different labels. Those labels are very important because that is what you use to determine which box you're going to pull. Let's say you see a box that says screwdrivers, another box that says hammers. Now, if you have a nail that you need to hammer into something, then you pick the two that says hammer, or you pick the box that says hammer on the label. So that's exactly the significance of this. Oh, sorry, let's bring back Kenny. Kenny, yeah, I'm not sure what happened there. I think that something dropped and you're in the connection. So can you hear me now? Are you back? Are you back, Kenny? Can you hear us? Can you hear me, Kenny? Are you back? Oh, I'm not sure. Can you hear me, Kenny? Just confirming. I'm not sure. Oh, nice. Okay. So let's do this. So what I want to do is, okay, I've added the description, the method, I'll leave that as get. I've added the URL to my table storage. So I got the URL already and I added it here for the SaaS, with the one with the SaaS token. What else do I need to add here to progress? So let's see. Authentication, I'll set that to none. So because the authentication is already included in the URL. And I'm just going to modify some of this. So what parameters am I going to send? So in this case, I'll specify a parameter of this, of filter. And I'm going to specify the value. I'm going to specify that as expression. And I'm going to paste my value here. I'm going to paste the value. So David, what am I doing here? So this is something relating to Azure Table Storage. Azure Table Storage, when you're querying it, there are certain parameters that you can use. So you can use a filtering parameter to filter for certain values from the database. So I had other parameters. So the other parameter that I'll use is the top parameter. So you can use the top parameter to select top values. So I'll go ahead and I'll add the expression for what that looks like. So, and there is another one that I'll add, which is the select parameter. Select parameter you can use to select certain values from the database. And the expression that I'll use is I'll use the expression for in terms of what to select. So I'll do all of this. There's a few more things that I'll do. So I also need to send certain headers in the HTTP request. So for the headers, I'll enable that. And I'll specify certain header parameters. So the first parameter to specify as an header is the accept parameter. So what sort of values will be accepted in this case? JSON is what will be accepted. So I'll go ahead and I'll specify application JSON or data. And I'll add another parameter, which is the XMS version, which specifies the API version that I'll be using. And the version that I'll be using will be 2020 August. So I'll specify those. So the parameters to send. So I'll leave other values at their default settings. And let's go back. So now we have our first two. And what I can do is I can rename these two. So let's rename it. And I'll rename these two as Search Students DB. So this is the tool that the AI agent will use to search my database. And it can use any of the parameters that I've specified. There's one other tool that I'll add, which is a tool to update the database. So if I go ahead and I add another tool, and let's add the tool, and I'll add, let's add another tool here. I'll add HTTP request tool. Okay, I'll need to specify a description for it. So I'll go ahead and specify the description. So Kenny, the question I was asking you earlier before the connection dropped, does it matter what I put in the description of the tools? Does it?
No.
Really, does it not matter? So if I put,
Description.
yeah,
Because from what I can remember from what's it called? Azure AI
yeah,
Foundry, like there's a box for the description where it's not necessary exactly. After you've given it the what's it called, the knowledge or the instructions you want it to follow.
okay, I see. So is one of the things to mention uh, when it comes to like AI agents. So I'll come back to this. Let's do like some very quick reminder when it comes to AI agents. See, one of the mistakes with AI agents is sometimes because these tools are built to imitate human intelligence, right? And as one of the things about human intelligence is context is very important, right? So let's say instead of an AI agent, we have Kenny. Kenny is in a warehouse, and in the warehouse, there are three boxes in the warehouse. Kenny will be picking different tools from the boxes to determine what to do. So now you go into the warehouse, box number one just says tools. Box number two says tools. Box number three says more tools. If someone gives Kenny a task and say, "Oh, Kenny, can you help to um, can you help to nail this wardrobe to the wall?" How efficient is this for you to select your tool?
It's going to be
It's going
difficult.
to be difficult, right? Because all you just have is tools and more tools. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
which one do I? Where do I know where the hammer is? But let's say you go into the warehouse and instead of tools, this is hammer, this is screwdriver, um, this is whatever spanners or whatever. Now, which one is more helpful for you?
This
The one that is clear, right? That is clear. It's the same way
yeah.
with the models because what happens is that these agents, or sorry, with the agents, they have to determine which tools to use. We're not programming anything. So we'll be giving them instructions and saying, go do this. And it goes, I have multiple tools that I can use. Which tool am I going to use? I say, get me information from this database. Update this information from this database. So the clearer our descriptions are for our tools, the better it is for the agent. Which is the reason why if I just put two here, that wouldn't be good. It is better for me to do what I'm doing here, which is what I'm doing here is I'm putting very clear description of what this tool is for. So now it makes it easier for the agent. So if I go to show you what um, this is what the description that I'm putting. So this update and insert an entity into the student table database in Azure Storage. You need to supply the partition key and the row key to locate the row, and then you need to include. So essentially, I'm giving it information on this tool and how to use this tool, so that now it makes it easier to know which tool to select and how to use it. So that's the significance of that, of the description. So, okay, so in this case, because we want to use this tool to update the database, we change the method to posts. And also, for the URL, I'll need to specify my storage account name. So that's my storage account name there. I'll copy that, and I'll put my storage account name here. Actually, let's do this. Let's do this. URL, let me just do defined automatically by the model, so that the model will automatically define which URL to use. And then authentication, let's go add a description for this. So you see the power of description here. So in this case, what I'm going to do is that because the model will, or the agent will need to specify which URL to send the request to. However, it's very difficult to put that in statically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it instructions of what to do, right? When it's building the URL. So let me put in some instructions here very quickly. So let's do this. Let me copy this. By the way, all of these are in the document that I shared. So here, what I'm doing is I'm saying, this would be the full entity URL. um, you need to you need to put in this for the URL. So let me copy my storage account name again and replace that with my storage account name. I say you need to specify the partition key and the row key, and then you need to specify this one. And I'm like, okay, you need to replace the PK, which is the primary key, with the primary key that you retrieve. You need to replace the row key with the row key that you retrieve. And by the way, here is the SAS token that you can use. So I'll get my SAS token and I'll put my SAS token here. So in other words, I'm making it very clear to the agent in terms of what it needs to do. So I'll just copy my SAS token and I'll put my SAS token in here. So let's replace that. There we go. And once I've done that, the next thing that I'll do is authentication will be set to none. Let's see. Authentication is set to none. Let's send some query parameters. So query parameters, there's a few parameters. Actually, let's disable query parameters. Let's send header parameters. So I'm going to send some header parameters. I'll send accept. So let's go to this. So I'll specify name, accept, value of. So these are the different headers that the API will expect. So I'll need to add about 4 of them. So I'll just add them very quickly, and then we can test out our agent. So let's go to content type. Which content type will be sent? So that'll be application JSON. Let's add another parameter. So which HTTP methods to use. In this case, it will be a merge. I'll add other parameters like if merge, and I'll use a wildcard. And finally, I'll specify the API version to use. And I'll specify this. So once I've specified all of this, I'll also enable this for the body. So what will they send in the body? So it will send a JSON body. So I'll specify the body that the API will be expecting a JSON format. And let's go to this one. Excuse me. So the JSON, I'll say the model will define that by itself, and I'll give it example of what to do. So this is very important. So descriptions are very important. So in this case, I'm specifying, here's an example of what the payload will look like. The JSON needs to be in this format that you're sending if you need to update something. And there's some other information for you. So that's how we guide agents. We guide agents using natural language. So we don't use programming, we use natural language. So once I have all of this set up, I'll just go back to the canvas and I will update this name. I'll rename it from HTTP request. I'll change it to update student DB and rename that. There we go. So Kenny, here is the moment of truth, right? Here is the moment of truth where we test out our agents and we'll see, what that looks like. So let's go back to this and let's reset our chat session. And let's say, hello. So you can see it's triggered the agents, and the agents use the model to respond, and then it saved that in the memory. So it says, hello, how can I assist you today? Okay, so let's ask it some questions about our database. So let's pick a student in the database. So we have a student called Sebastian Kelly here, studying biology. So let's ask a question and say, who is Sebastian Kelly's student advisor? Which we can see is Dr. Miller. So let's go ask. Who is Sebastian Kelly's student advisor? And if I press enter to that, let's see if it manages to select the right tool. And look at that. Can you see that? So now what I've done is that it's selected and says, oh, the tool that I'm going to use for this is to search StudentDB. So it used that tool, made a call to StudentDB, got the results, saved it in the memories, and then returned it back to me and says, that is Dr. Miller. And let's say let's do something, let's make some other queries. Let's say, get me a list of students studying business administration. Let's do that. Get me a list of students studying business admin. Let me just use business admin instead of business administration. Let's see how it handles that. Look at that. So you can see that it's responded, right? It's gone, oh, here's a list, and it's got, Matteo Diamini. So let's go check. There we go, Matteo Diamini, Marisol Bebe, Noemi Arujo. And let's see if it got that right. Yeah, you can see that it's got their names and all the stuff. So now it's interacting with the database. What about if we want to get it to update the database? Let us see if it's able to select the right tool and do that successfully. So what I want it to do is I want to get it to update the student advisor for one of the students. So let's pick on another student. Let's say Pavani Kim. So Pavani Kim's student advisor is currently Professor Patel. What about we change that to Professor Kenny? So let's go. Let's see what it's going to do. Updates, change Pavani Kim's student advisor to Professor Kenny. So let's see what it's going to do. So now, and look, it's selected the right tool. It seems to be completed, and it says it's done. It says Pavani Kim student advisor has successfully updated to Professor Kenny. So let's go check. And you can see still Professor Patel there, but let's refresh. And then let's go to Pavani Kim. So that's Pavani Kim, and let's see Professor Kenny. There we go. So now you can see now we have an agent that's using natural language to pick the right tools and to interact and update and modify information in a database in Azure, right? So, and again, the power of N10 is that all of this stuff are all logged. So at any point, I can click on any of these. So many people may not know that. I can interact and see exactly which message was sent. So I can go see, for example, when it comes to changing that, I can click on that and I can go check what was sent, what's the input that was sent. I can examine the input and I can see the output that came out. So if something is wrong, I can see like what I need to change in the instruction that I'm giving the model. So I can go ahead and I can examine all of this. So that brings us to the end of this. Any questions at all? Does that make sense, Kenny, in terms of like leveraging
Yes.
this? Yeah. So let me add this because I think maybe not in the next session, because next session may be Kenny's session, but maybe in my own next session, one of the things I would like to start talking about, I would like to start talking about multi-agent orchestration, because this is only like a simple part of it. And I'll be leveraging like Azure Foundry, Azure AI Foundry. So because in this case, what I may want to do is I may want to have an orchestration agent that has multiple child agents. So I have an agent that feeds into another agent. So that way I can have like one agent that controls like 15 other agents to do different things. And then it can go. So for example, think about it like maybe like a university agent, right? So you have an orchestrator agent, one handles registration, one handles, payment of fees, one handles this one. So now you have this central agent. Its own job is to select the child agent and say, oh, what you want to do is to do this. So I'll send you off to that agent. What you want to do is to do this, I'll send you off to that agent. So now you can have a multi-agent workflow where you have an orchestrator agent that controls many others. So in my own next session, but I think next one will be yours, Kenny, and that's what I'll do and talk about. Is I'll try to talk about multi-agent orchestrations. So we start going further in our conversation. Any questions at all from what we discussed today before we stop today's session?
No.
Nice. Okay, there are no questions. Thanks very much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you found this useful. So we'll pick it up from there next 2 weeks. Until then, have a lovely rest of the evening. Bye for now.
Okay.